Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Music and Therapy Podcast with Relationship Coach Keana W. Mitchell. I am your host, Keana W. Mitchell. Well, I hope everyone is doing well and that you had an amazing weekend and that your day is awesome. This season, we're going to be doing a lot of new, fun, and exciting things, which will include weekly question and answer sessions in our Facebook group. Can you guys believe we are in season 10? I know, when I first started, I had no idea that the podcast would be going as long as it has been going and that we would actually make it to season 10. So as you can imagine, I am thrilled that we are in season 10. So this season, I really want us to get it going. I want us to do everything we can to make sure that we are becoming the best version of ourselves and making our marriage better. So if you would like to join the Facebook group, all you have to do is click on the link in the show notes, and you can definitely sign up to be a part of the Facebook group. I do want to let you know it is a private Facebook group, so if you click on the link, I promise to let you in as soon as I see that you signed up for it, okay? So we're going to be doing that, and hopefully through this Facebook group, we'll be able to talk about a lot of things that can be helpful in your marriage. I also plan to do other little activities and things so that we can collectively work on our marriages while we work on ourselves. So on the podcast last month, we talked a lot about what we can do to first recognize unhealthy marriages and then what we can do to make them healthy again. So here are some takeaways from last season's episode of the podcast, okay? The first thing we realized is that it's important to recognize that your marriage isn't healthy. Number 2, take steps to make your marriage healthy again. Number 3, work on your marriage together. Number 4, this is very important, work on your marriage alone. And I say this because, we could work on it together, but you also have to work on the part that you messed up. And that work is what you can do alone. So work on a marriage together, work on a marriage alone. And then number 5, have a support group. So these are just some takeaways from last season's episode of the podcast, and we have many episodes. We even had an episode about gaslighting and if your spouse is a narcissist. So if you would like to find out more about any of the things we talked about last month, then click on the link in the show notes to listen to last month's episode of the podcast. This week on the podcast, we're going to talk about how stress can have a negative effect on your marriage, okay? And I think it's very important to talk about it because a lot of times when people have marital issues, what they don't recognize is that constant stress, that constant anxiety, that constant depression, that constant nervous can negatively impact their marriage, but it can also have a negative impact on them because all of that stress is not what we're meant to have. We're not supposed to have stress continually for years or months on end. So sometimes when your marriage is rocky and things are not going good, you do deal with stress for months or weeks or maybe even years. And so what I want to talk about is how stress does affect your marriage, okay? So it's important to know that when trying to work on or improve your unhealthy marriage, it is a very good thing for you to be in a good place emotionally. So in order for you to be in a position to begin to work on yourself and your marriage, you have to be in a good headspace. You can't do this if you're stressed out, overwhelmed, depressed, have anxiety. You literally have to be in a good headspace, okay? So let's talk about some of the things that stress can cause in your marriage and some of the things that stress can cause in you. So what I like to say is stress has symptoms, okay? So when we are stressed, our body does experience symptoms. So you might feel feelings of fear, anger, sadness, worry, numbness, or frustration. You might have changes in your appetite. You may not have energy like you used to. Your desires and interests change. And it could just be because you're stressed out. You're overwhelmed and you don't know what to do. You might have problems concentrating, making decisions, nightmares, sleeping problems. You could even have physical reactions, such as maybe tension in your neck, headaches, body pain, stomach problems, skin rashes, grinding teeth. Some people will have decreased sex drive. All of these things can be affected by stress. Maybe if you have a chronic health issue or mental health condition, this can also be affected by stress. Also, if you have an issue with drinking, or even if you don't, let's just say you drink every now and then, right? Stress can make you increase your use of alcohol. Stress can make you take illegal drugs to try to numb that feeling or try to get through some of those stressful issues and feelings that you're feeling. And you can also misuse prescription drugs. So all of these things can be caused by stress. So there's stress, and then this is just the symptoms of stress, right? So this is what can happen when you are chronically stressed. And chronic stress is just like stress for a long period of time that you experience in your life. And this can happen a lot when it comes to relationships, because relationship problems, first and foremost, take a long time to get the way they are, but they also take a long time to get better, right? So since it's taking a long time to get better, sometimes when your relationship is not good or your marriage isn't good, that's what you focus on. That's what you think about. That's what's constantly on your mind. So you're feeling distressed 24/7. In addition to like work and kids and all the other issues that we have. So this is how stress can negatively affect your mental health. And it can also affect your marriage. So when we talk about stress affecting your marriage, it's just common knowledge that people typically become more irritable, anxious, or emotionally exhausted under stress, which can affect spousal communication and behavior. I'm just going to be honest. I am not my best when I'm stressed out, okay? I am not my best when I don't get sleep. And remember earlier we said that if you are stressed, you might not get a lot of sleep. You might not eat a lot. So we're not taking care of our bodies, right? And we are stressed and our relationship is not going the way we want it to go, and maybe kids are being affected, work is being affected, every part of your life is being affected, you are not going to be in the best headspace to deal with the marriage. So it's very important that we understand how important it is for us to learn how to manage stress, which we will talk about next week on the podcast. But today we're going to just look at how stress can negatively affect the relationship and how it can negatively affect us. So stress can also lead to decreased marital satisfaction, negative interactions. Maybe we don't have patience with our partner. Maybe we're snapping at them. Maybe we're saying rude comments to them. Maybe we're criticizing more, because we are stressed out. Stress can also cause conflicts. It can also create communication barriers, emotional strain, less quality time, and even a change in priorities. This can happen because a lot of times people may want to bottle up or keep their stress to themselves, which does make it difficult for them to understand their partners or listen to what they're going through. Because let's think about it. If you're stressed out, right? Is it going to be easier for you to have empathy for your spouse or maybe be able to put yourself in their shoes? No. And it's not because you're not capable of doing that. You are definitely capable of doing that, right? It is just because of the fact that you are so stressed out until it is zapping everything in you. So you're just trying to get through from day to day, right? So you're not able to provide that emotional support. You are not able to hear where they're coming from or understand where they're coming from because you are too stressed out. A lot of time when people are stressed, they kind of become withdrawn, distant themselves, maybe become distracted, they're not as affectionate, and they have less time for their spouse, leisure activities, which can lead to alienation because, there's a disconnect. One person's stressed out, they're withdrawing from the relationship, they're distracted, they're not as affectionate, they're not communicating, right? So, of course, this is going to create distance and it's going to create alienation and a distraction between the partners. So that is something that stress can actually do. It can kind of make you and your spouse begin to disconnect because one spouse is too stressed out to be able to handle being in a relationship. Another thing that stress can do, it can definitely impact your marriage a lot. Now remember we talked about the communication breakdown. So a lot of the time stress can lead to people being irritable, frustrated. Maybe they have a problem communicating because they're so frustrated and so upset until they can't communicate effectively. Maybe they're going to scream, maybe they yell, which if somebody's yelling and screaming at you, even though they're stressed and frustrated, this can result in a misunderstanding and conflicts. So this is how that relationship and the communication can break down because someone can be so stressed until their communication is shot because they're just so overwhelmed and they don't communicate the way that they should to express what their needs are, what their hurt is, and what they're feeling because they're so stressed out. They're communicating in a way that is unhealthy. Stress can create emotional distance, as we already talked about, because if one or both partners are stressed, they may begin to withdraw from each other, which will lead to feelings of isolation and loneliness within a relationship. Now, Gottman does talk about how instead of going away from your partner, we should go to our partner. So even in times of stress, instead of withdrawing from them, we should go toward them instead of going away from them. Because if you go toward your spouse, even when you're stressed out, and you let them know, I'm stressed out, I need help, then, there can be some kind of understanding, right? There might be a way that you guys can talk about your feelings. So it's very important that even in these times when you're stressed out, that you don't go away from your partner, but you go towards your partner, just to make sure that you can alleviate and maybe even eliminate some of this emotional distance that can happen when people are stressed out. Another reason stress can tear your marriage apart is because it can also lead to decreased intimacy. So if you're stressed out, you may not want to be physical with your partner. You may not have that emotional intimacy with them. Sex might not be something that's high on your level of things to do because you're too stressed or overwhelmed. So if you try to take emotional connection out and you're taking sex out, that can lead to a big problem on a deeper level. And that is the reason why stress can rip your marriage apart. Stress can also increase conflict. The smallest issue can escalate quickly when your stress levels are high, leading to more frequent and intense arguments. And guys, I know I have been there. I know when I'm stressed, you can say one thing to me, right? And I will explode because I'm so stressed out. And it's almost like, you guys know like marbles, right? Let's say someone is stacking the marbles up, stacking them up. And one little false move can make all the marbles come down. I guess the best way to describe this would be if you have ever heard of the game Jenga. Okay, so it's a game that has little pieces and you have to keep stacking them on top of each other, and then you see how high you can go without making the whole pile of blocks fall. So that is what can happen when we do have stress in our marriage. So it's like small things are stacked and stacked and stacked on top of each other, and when someone is stressed out, each small thing that's added onto their plate can be something that is more overwhelming, more stressful. So that is why even the smallest issue can create an argument and cause things to tumble into this big chaotic argument because you're stressed out. And the smallest thing can make your emotional ladder just collapse, right? So that is why stress can lead to increased conflict. Did you guys know that stress can also make you have health issues? Chronic stress can lead to health problems, which can further strain the relationship as partners cope with illnesses and its associated challenges. So you see how stress can go, all the things stress can do, right? So stress is not good to have. It is something that unfortunately we do have, right? Now, there are different types of stress, and the first one is acute stress. Acute stress is the stress that we experience almost every day, but it's not in such a long duration and it's not as frequent, okay? So that is acute stress. Another type of stress that we experience is episodic stress. And this happens when we are stressed out, and maybe we're stressed out a little bit more. Maybe it could be people at work, maybe it could be a home environment. We deal with it for a little bit of time, but we're only stressed out in that particular situation. So let's say you have a job that's very stressful, right? So when you go to work, you're stressed out at work because that's what the stress is. But when you leave work, you no longer feel that stress because it's just in that particular location. So that is what a lot of people experience, and that kind of stress is okay. Acute stress is okay. But when we talk about chronic stress, which is what typically people experience when they are in a marriage where they're not happy or they're not in a good marriage, they experience that chronic stress because your home, you're dealing with the marriage, you're thinking about it. So there's a lot of things that go on to it. So that's why health problems could be an issue, because chronic stress can lead to health problems. And we know that when people do have health problems, it can put a strain on the relationship. So these are just some of the things that stress can do to your marriage. So guys, it is very important for couples to recognize the signs of stress and then work together to manage it. Now, we're going to talk more about managing stress next week, but managing stress could even include like open communication, seeking professional help, or finding stress relief activities to enjoy together or alone. Because if you're the only person stressed out and your spouse is not, but your stress is affecting the marriage, then you're going to have to maybe seek the help of a professional by yourself to work on your stress and learn coping skills. Or you might have to meditate or work on your own coping skills to help you deal with that stress so that you can be a better partner, but most importantly, you can be the best that you can for yourself. And when you are the best version of you, it does translate into your relationship or your marriage. So if you recognize that you are stressed out and overwhelmed about your marriage, I do want to encourage you to sit down and write down 2 things that you can do to calm down. Write down 2 coping skills, and then make sure you practice these 2 coping skills when you find yourself stressed. But it's important to practice these coping skills before you find yourself feeling stressed, so that when you are stressed, you will know what you can do to calm down and what you can do to relieve your stress. Now, next week, what we're going to do is talk about some practical ways to begin dealing with your stress in a healthy way so that you can be in a better emotional state. Now, the song we're going to listen to this week is called Wipe Your Eyes, and it's about a woman who tried to move past the stress, anxiety, and heartbreak that she is dealing with. So here's the song, Wipe Your Eyes. He was the first man that you ever loved. You thought that he was sent from above. He was everything you thought he should be. Kind and gentle, loving. But then you found out that he didn't love you. You feel so betrayed. A costly price your heart has paid. Happened so fast, you thought in your heart that it would last. You wanted him to be the one, so you ignored things he had done. But then you found out that he didn't love you. You feel so betrayed, a costly price your heart has paid. A costly price your heart has paid. Don't cry, wipe your eyes. 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 Before I end the podcast, I would like to thank you so much for being here with me today. I absolutely love hanging out with you each week, and it's always a pleasure to spend time with you. If you love the podcast as much as I love spending time with you, I encourage you to share this week's episode with a friend or family member, and make sure that you like and follow the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. I will also love it if you will leave a review for the podcast so you can let me know how much you are enjoying the show. Because I am so thankful to you guys, I am going to be giving away a free gift. I understand that being married can be difficult and stressful at times. So, if you are looking for a way to stop arguing and resolve issues in your marriage, then click the link below in the show notes to download your free PDF about how to solve problems in your marriage. If you would like to contact me, feel free to contact me on social media by clicking the links in the show notes, and I promise you that I will respond to your message. Well, I think that's all for now. So until next week, have an amazing day and a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.